Hello, this is episode 43.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, 43. Do you even know what we're talking about?
You do?
But do you?
Partially.
What do you think we're talking about?
Talking about experiences.
Yeah.
What, I imagine, what classes as an experience and what isn't. The definition of an experience in different people's eyes.
Well, kind of.
Oh.
Basically, when I was looking for different topics we can do, you look so funny then. I came across an article on this website that you follow, Blue Loop. Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
They have some cool stuff. I don't know what they actually do.
No, I don't know what they do either.
But they do a lot of theme park entertainments, kind of like articles. Anyway, so I found this article. It's by someone called Wim Stridbosch. Can't say his name. Yeah. It's called From Experiencing to Experiences, Insights from Psychology. And you can imagine why I clicked on this, because I did psychology. I just clicked on it for the bants, really. Anyway, it turns out to be really interesting. And it basically talks about the psychology behind a theme park experience, or a ride experience specifically.
Yeah.
You look so bored. And the whole thing is just very interesting, and it gave a lot of different points that we could talk about, what is an experience, and just different things about that. So basically I have notes here about the article and quotes from it. And so yeah, because we've just done an episode about theming, so I don't want it to be what is an experience, because we've kind of already covered that. But just these interesting points, it was just a very good article.
Was it?
Yeah.
Let's go then.
Okay.
Where do we start?
Well, obviously he starts off about saying what an experience technically is, in terms of your brain.
Right.
So do you know, what would you say it is? Just a general experience, not necessarily about a theme park.
A memorable event that has a start and an end.
Okay, that's very specific. So an experience is a memorable event that kind of has
a beginning and an end. Yeah.
Okay.
What is it?
But if you say I've got experience in graphic design.
Right, okay. Yeah. So
where does that experience come from?
But that's a different experience.
No, but just generally, where do you get an experience from?
From multiple events that have beginning and ends.
Okay. So your memories.
Well, you gain experience from having done something. And the only reason you'd have experience is because you remember doing it. So you've done it before and you remember it.
You do a thing and then you have a memory of doing that thing.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's basically what it is. So you interact with the world. No, but you said before that an experience is just an
event.
A thing.
Yeah. Okay. So
but
an interaction.
Interacting with the world.
And
then you remember that you interacted with the world.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it wouldn't be an experience, because...
Well, if you couldn't remember it, what's the point?
Exactly. You just forgot it. So that's, I think, where the more general thing of I have experience in graphic design, because you've had many different memorable events to do with graphic design. Anyway, that's a separate thing. So then he also goes on to say it's about the 5 senses. So obviously we all know what they are, but basically that's the way you can interact with the world. But then in terms of theme parks, I don't know if they always hit all of them.
It's what you got sight.
Sight, obviously you hit sight because you're looking at stuff.
Sight.
Hearing,
yeah.
So music, sounds.
Smell,
you can have smell pods.
Taste, and then
taste
touch.
Is the taste and touch are the ones that.
But I would call touch. So, in my mind,
touch is like wind
or forces.
Okay, so but that's movement, right?
But I would call touch. Well, I would call movement in this context touch, because what other sense does it interact with?
Yeah,
it's not sight. It's not. You can feel movement if you don't have any of the other senses.
So okay, so the movement of whatever it is
is
touch.
I would call touch.
And then taste, we're obviously not eating things,
No,
really.
so taste is the main one.
Yeah.
I guess quite a lot of rides would miss out also on smells, you know.
Yeah, smells, unless they've put a lot of money into the smell
or
pods.
even noise, sound, without a soundtrack. You
Yeah.
just got the ambient noise of the ride itself. So I feel like touch is always the core of a ride.
Right.
And then you start slapping on these additional layers.
Mm-hmm. Interesting that you think it's touch. I don't know, because it's more like it's more
sight
like bodily
well.
sensations.
Yeah,
I'd say.
So sight as well, right? Where you see, I forgot sight was a thing then. Where,
yeah,
you
sight
see
and touch.
Sight and touch. Only, as I say, only touch in the way of a sensation.
Yeah,
that
so
you
not
feel. Not specifically interacting. Physically handling. Unless you create a whole new, sixth sense in this context.
But it wouldn't be a sense, would it?
No.
It'd be a sensation.
Yeah, but surely it's a sense to. It must be part of the senses to feel acceleration.
This is a very interesting point that I never even thought about.
So what one is it?
Because senses are like, if you think about like your actual body, the senses have like receptors in your body that pick up on. So in your nose, there's receptors that you smell through.
Yeah.
But I did a whole module about like movement.
What is it not like your balance?
Well, yeah, but you have all over your body receptors, so like muscle cell receptors.
Yeah.
That will move your body. So I guess that's the ones you're hitting. But I never thought of them as being part of touch, because when you think of touch, you just think of like your skin, your hands, what you touch and you feel.
Where does the innate sense of acceleration come from? How do you know that you're accelerating?
This is a very complex question, Harry.
You know.
Okay, so there's a couple of things.
If you took all of wind out of it, you'd still know you're accelerating, right?
But you probably learned what that feels like. If you took a new person who'd never experienced anything before in their life, you put them on a roller coaster and you took away you just put them on and let them go, they wouldn't necessarily know what that sensation is.
No, but they would feel it.
But if you think about what you actually feel, we've gone on such a tangent, but it's interesting. You feel like the force of you moving forward, right?
Yeah.
So let's say you're on a launch. You feel your body launch forwards because you hit the restraint, then you come back off the restraint. Yeah. Anyway, but there's a whole other thing going on in your eyes that's telling you you're moving.
Yeah, of course.
And those two things happening at the same time, you have programmed that as I'm being launched forward.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, if you closed your eyes, if you muted your ears, if you cut your nose off, and also... What's the last one?
Taste, but we'll forget that.
Yeah, it's fine. If you did all of that, you'd still feel that you're moving.
You'd feel you're moving, but you only know that you'd be launched because you've done that before.
Of course, right? And yeah, the other feelings become conceptual, as in, contextual, where you understand your situation because you're looking around, right? Yeah.
But that's why our eyes are so important.
Yeah, but then the core, the kind of fundamental feeling of a ride, most rides, roller coasters, is the acceleration, right? Is the force, I would say. That's the reason people want to get on a roller coaster.
Yeah, but I don't know what your original point is.
I don't know what it was either.
But
I only said that it was touch and sight. It was the core ones. If you count touch as the sensation of feeling acceleration.
Yeah, but I think you underestimate how important sight is.
No, I get it.
It's very important.
I know.
Anyway. So it's interesting to think of the force senses that you use when you're on a ride.
Yeah, unless you lick something.
I don't recommend doing that.
Yeah, neither do I.
Did you see that someone tweeted like in lockdown or when the parks reopened that the Smiler restraints smelled so good now because they cleaned them so much? Can you remember how smelly they were?
Yeah, I mean, Blackpool have similar restraints, but they always used to put like a spray on them that smell nice.
Oh, that's smart. Yeah, because they stink anyway.
They do stink. There's your smell.
Yeah, well, literally, I associate that smell with the... I'm not licking that. I associate that smell with the Smiler, like a very intense sweat smell.
Yeah. Well, it's because it's like foam, isn't it? That's just absorbed everywhere. Absorbed the rain.
So unhygienic.
But anyway, next point.
So then he goes on to say, like, he kind of explains the different senses, so like background music that you've designed. But then there's other things that you wouldn't necessarily think of, like the behavior of other people that can affect your experience. And then also like not just external stuff, but internal stuff. So say you go to a theme park and you feel a bit sick or like you feel a bit rubbish on that particular day, that will also have a huge impact on how you ride stuff.
Of course.
And then I thought, like, this is a very interesting thing that we're touching on because, for example, the Derby Road wildfire, maybe the ride was running perfectly well. Maybe it was running exactly the same as when other people go and really enjoy that ride, but maybe we just, like, were having a bad day. Or something about the vibes made us feel a certain way.
Oh, and that's what I always say about atmosphere, isn't it? The fact that I was so upset with wildfire was the atmosphere.
Yeah.
I've always said that.
But that might just be like you personally were having a weird day inside your body.
I mean, I don't think it was, but
no.
At the beginning at least.
It shows how important it is for parks to try to like manipulate a person's mood when they immediately get in the park, because if you can change their mood, they're just going to have a better time.
Well, this is it. You want to start off with on a high note, right? You want to, which is why a lot of parks have such a keen interest on entrance music.
Yeah.
For example, to really create this sense of escapism, especially you know like towers or all for that, where they try and make it all whimsical and you know you've escaped to this different part of the world. I guess to try and cultivate in the people's minds that you know. You're free from the rest of the world, you know, now into, which works. And this is what people, I mean, I must score when I interviewed one of the guys there, he was like, you know, if you listen to pop music in a theme park, it grounds you to real life, because you listen to pop music when it's on the radio, on Spotify, whatever.
But they do that at Blackpool, don't they?
Yeah, they do. But you don't listen, unless you're a nerd, to theme park music. Yeah, but
even if you do, you're still nostalgically thinking of a theme park when you listen to it.
So by doing that, it takes you out of reality and puts you in this, you know, place where you're free from the chains of life.
Yeah, and that's okay. In this article, he'd watched a TED talk by someone called Eddie Soto. Is that how you say it?
No idea.
He's an ex-Imagineer.
Oh, really?
And I watched the TED talk. Basically, he was saying he was just kind of like thinking about his role, because he left Disney, but now his role is like being an Imagineer but for other people, not Disney, and how he like makes experiences basically. And he was saying stuff like you are, where Disney specifically put bombs around the theme park, so and had one entrance, so you enter this fantasy world and you're not in the real world anymore. You don't have to worry about that anymore.
Exactly.
And that's specifically so that you're like in a completely different place.
Smart, isn't it?
Yeah. And he said how they thought of it like making a movie backwards. So you're the actor walking through the park, so they play music to suit what you should be doing, kind of thing, or how you should be feeling or acting. And then like the smells they pump out to all create this movie in a way, but it's the other way round, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, if you could probably analyze quite a lot of theme parks just off that whole entrance thing, right? And going, well, you know, what can I see around me? And what is the initial kind of vibe that I get as soon as you walk in?
Well, that's one thing I've noticed about like Polton's Park. We'd never been there before. But when you walked in, it was very nice.
It was.
And I, didn't expect it to be, so that helped it a little bit, because I was, you know, wasn't expecting too much from it. But just the initial vibes really set up the day for us to have a nice time.
It did. I would also say, as much as people don't like Thorpe Park is another good example with that bridge.
It's a hype.
For sure. You know, you cross this bridge from, you know, one world to another.
Exactly.
You enter the dome, and then that's your beginning.
Yeah.
So it's in that sense, it's well done. Even looking out from the dome, when you get the whole panoramic view, it's all pretty good.
Yeah.
You demolish the crappy little water park thing in front of you, then it'd be lovely.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and then certain parks don't do it too well. You know, Blackpool.
Yeah.
For example. Yeah.
You're just kind of in, aren't you?
Yeah. I think Liseberg's probably a good example in a way. Walking through and then along that corridor that is just kind of a view of everything in that park. But it definitely sets you up. I guess that's one of the reasons I've always preferred towers. Even though the entrance is hot garbage, like the physical building is terrible.
But Main Street isn't.
It's really nice.
Yeah.
Even though it's not. Like, it's not. Let's be honest. It's not crazy.
But it's just, I think, just having a street, like, it doesn't really matter what's on the street. Just the fact of, like, you know, the pumped feeling you have of, like, walking down there towards whatever it is.
And the view as well. The whole straight down, you know, across the lake. The towers are right there. You can see it all the way from the very top.
Yeah, you know, sightlines are very important.
Exactly.
And the feeling of space and, like, you can go wherever you want kind of thing.
For sure.
That's like Disney has with the castle.
Exactly. And
you're like, oh, we're here, where should we go kind of thing.
You can't see anything from towers either, can you?
Yeah.
So you really are in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
You know?
But anyway, let's move on to the next part.
No, it's a really interesting topic.
So essentially, what he's getting to is that experiences are very personal things and very subjective. So depending on who you are, what you've been through in your life, you're going to have a completely different experience to everyone else in the world, which I think is interesting as well in terms of like how we always say, oh, everybody has a different opinion. That's not like a lie. That's literally true because every single person is completely different. So how could we ever agree on one roller coaster being our favourite?
Though I will say, as much as opinions are, you know, everyone has a different opinion, there is some objectivity that you can find, right? Objectively.
I was very excited about this episode because I knew you were going to try and do this.
No. This is true, though.
Okay.
Objectively, some roller coasters are better than others.
What do you mean?
Objectively, right?
What do you mean?
But what do you mean? What do I mean?
Why is it better?
Because it's designed better.
Okay.
It offers a better variation of interesting forces.
No, but stop. Okay. The two things you've just said, it's designed better and has a variety of forces.
It's not...
That's subjective.
No.
You think that a variety of forces is great. I might just prefer airtime. So all I want is airtime. You see what I mean?
So what I'm saying is, on that sense, fine. I'm talking more of like when you compare roller coasters that you would perceive in different leagues, right? Of
So you
design.
mean Flying Fish compared to Nemesis?
Exactly. One is objectively better than the other.
What do you mean by better?
As in, it offers... it has the... Here we go. It has the potential... It has a higher potential to offer a better experience.
Yes, but Harry,
there we go.
You're missing my point.
Go.
Imagine, I'm a person who is... What's the word? I'm not looking for a thrill.
Of course, right?
I want to have a relaxing time.
So this is when...
I'm going on Flying Fish.
So this is what I mean. Right, okay. And I try and look at this from... You have an opinion, but, you know, you can be aware of your own bias and your own, you know, what you like.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Wait, right? So I know that I don't like inverts.
Yeah.
Right?
But you still think Nemesis is great.
Exactly. Because I know that it's a well-designed ride.
But you're still missing the point. You're talking about enthusiasts as a group of people.
Yeah.
People who want to be thrilled, go on something exciting, forceful.
Yeah, of course.
Intense. That is a very small group of people when you think about the population of the world.
Sure, right.
You can't just be like, this ride is objectively better than Flying Fish because it's thrilling. That's like, of course that's the aim of the roller coaster, but that's just one way to look at it.
I still stick by my it has a better potential. It has more potential to offer a better experience. I like that. I'm sticking with that. I think that's a good phrase. Get rid of objectively better. It has more potential to offer a better experience
because it has more things.
Yes.
Okay.
That's my new line. I'm never going to say that it's objectively better now. I'm going to be like, it has a higher potential to offer a better experience.
Oh my god. Okay.
It's true.
Yeah. But this is why we can't ever be like, you're wrong.
No, of course.
Because people have to understand that it like everything that you think is based on what you know. Mm-hmm. So how can you say to someone else like,
some
you're
people are just
wrong.
So some people are
no, but
just
you
wrong.
can't say that.
Some
Harry.
people are just wrong.
I know
anyone who thinks Nemesis Inferno is better than Nemesis is just wrong.
But okay, but I agree with you, right?
I
personally
it's a joke.
agree with you.
Yeah, I'm taking the piss.
I know, but we have to remember that some people genuinely like Inferno better.
I know, and then,
for reasons we don't understand.
And going back to your point of it's situational. Nostalgia is a big point, isn't
exactly.
it? People like some rides better than others purely because of the nostalgia, even though it's if you rode it for the first time then and there, you would definitely prefer the new over the old. People like the old because it's what they've known.
Yeah.
Which again,
we'll come back to something about that later.
I try to look past nostalgia.
You're such a robot.
Exactly.
Though.
I try to take away my bias.
Well, for what reason? Why can't you just lean into it? It's not. It's not.
It is.
Just have a nice time.
I look at my bias. I know what I appreciate, which is why I love Boulder, even though it's crap.
Yeah.
It's great, right?
But why are you forcing yourself to I'm aware of my bias just plain because I study psychology, but I'm not beating myself up for having it. I want to see it
from other people's perspectives. That's purely it.
So you're just doing it for the bounce?
Well, no, I'm doing it so that I can look at it from multiple angles.
Yeah, I do that as well, but I still stick to my own thing.
Well, of course I do.
Okay.
I'm just saying that I try to get two versions so that I can look at it from multiple points of view, not just my own.
Okay, wow.
Well, but then, I don't know. But I think that's what you have to do. In terms of, if you really want to be, I guess, knowledgeable, that's what you have to do.
Yeah.
Is get multiple points of view and go, well, I like this, but some people might not like this. I need to take away my bias, and that's why they might not like it.
Yeah.
Like Kanon, it's forceful as hell. People might not like it and don't like it because it's forceful as hell.
Yeah.
But I like that. So...
Okay, so you're just having a little think to yourself.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not going against my opinion.
Yeah, I don't want you to just keep changing your opinion.
No, I don't do that. Even though opinions should be changed. I am a firm believer that you should not hold on to an opinion.
Yeah. You just have to be open to different ones, because then you might actually realise that you like that one better.
Yeah, of course. So you shouldn't keep, just because you have an opinion doesn't mean you should keep that opinion forever.
Yeah. Massive time.
Again, which is why I try to look at it with an unbiased opinion, because then, so... Yeah,
you're keeping your options open.
Exactly. Carry on.
And so then he talks about a quote from David Bradley. Do you know who David Bradley is? David Bradley is the man who owned... Do you remember when Walt Disney was a young man and he used to take his kids to those little kiddie parks?
No.
And that was his inspiration for Disneyland. They used to go play, there was a carousel, whatever. Okay,
right.
David Bradley owned these parks.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if they were called parks, but anyway, they had stuff going on.
Trolley parks.
Don't know.
I don't know when trolley parks were a thing.
Walt kept turning to him for advice, or they'd have little chats.
Mm.
And David said, "The best rides happen to you." And he was talking about this quote, which I think is an interesting question to ask. Do you agree with that quote?
The best rides happen to you?
Yes.
What does it mean?
What do you think it means?
I knew you were going to say that. But what does it mean? What did he mean it to be? And this is another thing I don't like.
Oh,
right,
God.
Is this.
What?
The guy who wrote that quote...
Well, he just said it to Walt. He didn't write a quote.
Sorry, the guy who said that quote.
Yeah.
He had a viewpoint.
Is this where you're going to talk about how stupid English literature is?
Yes, he had a viewpoint, right, when he wrote that.
Yeah.
He may have been thinking several things, right?
Yeah, but
there wasn't an infinity of possibilities behind that quote.
Yeah.
There was a select few that he thought of, right?
Yeah.
So now I'm asking you, what were they?
The problem is, Harry, he probably said that to Walt, and Walt went, "What do you mean, David?" But they're not going to write down the rest of that conversation as a quote, are they? They're only going to take that small quote. I don't want to try and analyse it
and figure out what it means.
Should I tell you what I think it means?
No.
Why?
Do you want me to...
You tell me what you think it means.
So, say the quote again.
The best rides happen to you.
Well, it's a journey, right?
Yeah. The
best rides are a journey that you experience.
Right.
But
surely you experience every ride.
But not as a journey.
So you're going with the word journey on
Not as an emotional journey.
Okay.
Right?
We're getting somewhere.
So, a roller coaster it's a technical journey, but it isn't a journey.
What are you talking about?
Technically, you're moving from point A to point B, which is the definition of a journey.
Yeah.
I'm saying in the mind, in an emotional state, there is no journey. It's just like
a feeling.
Yeah, it's thrills.
Okay.
Journey is thrills. No thrills. Thrills. No thrills. Right. That's my journey. Whereas on.
So you mean you're sitting on the car. No thrills. You start thrill,
I mean,
thrill,
it isn't
thrill,
because
and
you've
then
got
it ends.
anticipation, and then you've got thrills.
Anyway, this is getting complicated.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, it's a journey that is almost like a film or a book.
A story.
A story.
Okay.
That's the one. Yeah, a story that
So you're saying theming and a story makes it a journey.
Sure.
Okay, but okay.
What do you think?
But he said that the best rides happen to you.
Yeah.
So I think what he means is all rides you go on, right? You experience, but the best ones happen to you.
Yeah.
So something.
You are part of the story.
Yeah. Like you're living it. Instead of just kind of being there.
Mate, this is
but it doesn't have to be a story. I would say Helix happened to me. No. It doesn't have a story.
No.
What do you mean? It was an experience.
No.
But you're taking this very literally.
Helix did not happen to me.
No, it happened to me.
Yeah, but I'm saying it didn't happen to me.
Well, but Kanan happened to you.
Yeah.
Imagine Kanan didn't have a storyline. Okay, let's take a different example. Boulder happened to you.
But did it?
Oh my god, Harry, you don't understand. You're thinking that to be an experience, a ride has to have a theme and a story. Is that what you think?
So what's your point?
That something about a specific ride, whether it has a theme or not, makes it an experience.
Yeah, so how did Helix happen to you?
Because I had an emotional reaction to it.
Right. A stronger one than normal. A
physical, emotional reaction. Yeah. I was like, wow. It doesn't need to have a story to do that, clearly. Because Helix is my number one. This is stressing you out. Should we move on to the next point?
I don't like it.
Okay.
We'll
forget that quote.
No, I get it. I can appreciate it. I more appreciate in the sense that what you said, as in you are a part of the story, if there is one. Say, right. You're not just watching the story from the sidelines.
But you're taking this very literally.
Part of the story. Yeah, I am.
You're taking it literally that the word happen means that you are involved in something. But I'm saying I was involved in something on Helix. It just wasn't a story.
Sure, you were involved in your own sort of awakening.
I was on a ride. Yeah. I was there.
I get it, but I don't. I personally wouldn't call that. You need a
story.
I wouldn't call that his quote. In my, here we go with our different takes on the. I don't think that's. I don't know what he meant.
Okay.
But I'd take the more literal approach.
Okay.
Especially from a ride designer's perspective.
Yeah. Okay.
Because what was it of Helix that made it happen to you?
We'll get onto that.
In the sense that did they design it so that would happen to multiple people?
We'll get onto that in a second, because there's a whole section on that.
And again, we're going to use my scale of, I would say Helix doesn't have a higher potential to happen to you.
Oh my god. Okay.
Pause
that thought. So in the article, this man's saying that because it's all so subjective, there are two things that leads to, right? The first one is that this is where he gets a little bit opinionated, so we might have some more arguments coming up. Firstly, he says experiences cannot simply be sold or bought. I would even go as far to say that experiences cannot be designed. At best, experiences can be designed by providing orchestrated environments filled with various stimuli that appeal to the senses. Do you agree or disagree? So he's saying,
okay,
you cannot design a ride to give someone a specific experience. You can just generally do it in that way.
He's being very binary, saying that there's a yes or a no.
Well, yes, they had the experience, or yes, they did.
Well,
no, they didn't.
This ride, he's saying that either people, in terms of designing the ride, they can't design it as a.
Let's do an example. Okay, let's say this is really random. Let's say we're going to make a ride and design it so the theme is.
No, but he's saying that he can't ensure that it becomes an experience for everyone, right?
Yeah.
That's basically what he's saying.
Yeah.
I'm saying I agree, but I don't agree. In the sense that, and to use the potential again.
Oh my lord!
You can design rides.
But that's what he's saying.
But it doesn't come across that. It comes across his way comes across really binary.
He says, at best, experiences can be designed for by providing orchestrated environments filled with various stimuli that appeal to the senses. So he's saying, but you can design an environment in a certain way as to try to create this experience, but you might not hit the exact experience that you want to get out of someone.
Of course.
So you agree, right?
I agree. Right, okay, I agree because he's tried to make it sound smart for no reason. No, that's a really fiddly way of saying what I was trying to say.
Yeah, because he's writing an article.
Exactly. Why? I don't like it when people do this.
Because it would be very boring
if
it was...
Say it the way I said it.
Oh my god.
The fact that you can design rides to have higher potentials to offer experiences. You know, instead of...
That's what he's saying.
Senses, no.
I like the way he's written it better than you.
Well, but I came out with that a second ago, not after sitting down. Anyway, I agree, right? Probably not as opinionated as him. You never know how people are going to take your experience, but you can guess very, very, very well. If you design it properly, I'm saying that there is a high level of certainty that you can provide them with at least aspects of the experience that you wanted to give.
That's what he's saying, though.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying.
Okay.
Otherwise, it wouldn't work, right? Because if everyone came off the ride with different experience, you've screwed it.
But probably sometimes that happens.
It does, right? Of course it does. But the fact that so many rides in the world exist where that isn't the case shows that it can be done.
Okay, but what evidence do you have that is the case? Let's take, for example, the Smiler. What evidence do you have that everybody gets the same experience from that? Everybody goes in with a blank slate. They've never heard of this ride before.
Yeah.
What evidence do you have that every person who rides it is going to come out with the same thing? Because I think what you just said is very enthusiast specific. Because everybody knows the Smiler.
No,
everybody's been on it 10,000 times.
No, I'm not looking at this as like roller coasters like that. I'm talking more of purely themed experiences that you're part of the story, which is explained to you, and in the sense that they try and make everyone live or experience a very similar story, so that by the end of it, people have had the same journey.
For example, what ride?
I don't know. I can't think of one.
But why do you keep going back to these very, very, very themed rides with a specific storyline? Because that's not what the majority of rides are like.
No. But
the majority of rides aren't even as themed as the Smiler.
No, but then I wouldn't call them an experience.
But everything in your life is an experience. That's what we defined at the start. So us sitting here right now is an experience.
Yeah, Again, it's a scale, man. It's a scale.
But I think you're using the word experience as we'll get onto that. Because we'll get onto that in a sec. The second thing that he says, because everything's so subjective, the second implication, is that every single individual perceives things in a different way. So he says, if there's a visitor number of 5 million guests, there will be 5 million different experiences.
Uh-huh.
That just made me, I don't know, that just made me think when I read that. Because I never thought about it that way before.
I agree, but again, I also don't agree. In the sense that he's made it very binary again, in the sense, he's gone, 5 million people have a different experience, not 5 million people have a slightly different experience.
The next paragraph. Of course, it is likely that there will be an overlap in experiences for a major part of the audience.
Exactly. And there's and that's what you want. If you design a ride well, that will happen.
He says, in the end, themed entertainment is an industry built to cater for the masses of people.
Of course.
But then he kind of says that it's interesting that how the designer expects something to come out is not exactly how it will come out on everybody. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? Which is very interesting.
Something I'm always interested in is people's opinions on rides. Is it better to be different from the masses or the same? Do you have good opinions, which again is its own subjective term? Do you have good opinions if you have the same opinions as everyone else, or you have unique opinions that differ from people? What do you think?
That depends on who you are.
No.
To some people, take for example hipsters.
Yeah.
They enjoy standing out from the crowd and being different,
of course, right.
And not following the trends and being cool. If you're like that, then it'll probably give you a lot of pleasure to be like, I don't like that ride, even though everyone else does, and be like, oh, I like this one instead. But then there's some people that want to like the same things as everyone else. They actually want to do that. Do you know what I mean? So it depends.
It's interesting. And it's like when you start ranking things as well. Obviously, you're ranking things based on what, I guess, most of the people will have a certain, as you said about the overlapping experiences, you know, you could say that 70% of the people will have a very similar experience and like a ride, whereas 30%, you know, you could split that 30% up into 10% of who no one cares, 10% didn't like it, and 10% thought it was okay, you know. And then if you ranked it, you'd obviously see 70% liked it, and it would go quite high, right?
You mean going in, say you're going in to ride Taron and you know that everybody else likes it, majority of everybody else loves it. Do you mean that's swaying your opinion?
Well, it would. It swayed mine, for sure. What I was talking about more is that it's the masses that drive the perception of how good things are. So Taron was designed to be good for this wide audience. You know, they obviously try to have overlapping experiences for most people. And they obviously hit the mark. People like it.
Yeah, for 70%.
Well, for 70%, you know, and that's why it's so good up there.
What, because the majority of people
share the same opinions and
so are you saying
it's almost,
are you saying is it good because everybody has the same opinion of it, or are you saying is it good because it's good?
And that's what that's my question, which is very changed from the very beginning, but very morphed into that is Town good, or is it good at making everyone have the same opinion?
But the same opinion is that it's good.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's interesting though, right? It's like, does
you mean the fact that it has such a good reputation, does that make it better than it actually is?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know what my original thought was.
Or you mean like, is it just peer pressure or like conformity? That everybody's just agreeing that it's good, even though they don't really think it's... Like, if they just went in with no knowledge of Taron, would they actually think it's good, or are they just agreeing? It's very complicated.
It is. Anyway, carry on.
So now we're getting on to, like, the specifics of what an actual experience is, which is what we were trying to define the whole time, because you keep saying that basically any ride with a theme is an experience, right?
Kind of.
So he talks about how essentially every waking moment of our day, we're experiencing things, right?
Yep.
Are you with me on that?
Yep.
Because we're alive, we're in the world. Everything we do, everything that happens in our day is an experience, technically, or is us experiencing the world because we're interacting with it for our senses. But then there's this definition that they're trying to define in research where it's, well, what is experiencing and how does that move on to become an experience, right? So you did this paper, published it last year, and he's looking at the continuous process of experiencing. So they say that essentially in your brain, just to dumb it down a little bit, you break up your experience into sections. And so then each of these is called an experiential, is that how you say that word? Like basically an experience episode. So that's the little sections of experiences. So they can be long or short or whatever. So he says in terms of a theme park, your day at the theme park can be an episode, the whole day. But then that can also consist of like
smaller ones.
So like we went on the Smiler, that's an episode, blah, blah, blah. So the act of cutting these experiences into episodes is that he's saying it's the first step towards it being memorable, right? So that's how your brain is breaking it down into a memory. So then there's various factors that can contribute to the memorability of these episodes, but they still kind of like researching what they are, but they found a couple. There's two. Do you want to guess what they are? Two factors that affect the memorability of these episodes. We've kind of already touched on a couple of them.
Factors in what sense?
What do you mean factors in what sense?
Like an emotional sense, or?
Yeah, that's one of them.
So then I would say enjoyment.
Okay.
Or happiness.
Yeah. You know, so you've hit the nail on the head, but they've called it emotional intensity.
Sure.
Doesn't have to be just happy, it can be fear.
Yeah.
Any kind of emotion that you're like intensifying. So they're saying, like, if you reach a threshold of emotion, so say you went on the Flying Fish, cool. Then you went on Storm Surge, we're at Thorpe Park, went on Storm Surge, just chilling, and then you go on Stealth, you're reaching the threshold of your emotion of that day, so that's the one that's going to be more memorable to you, that episode of whatever. And that signals your brain, or what, you know, all the neuron things. So that's what makes you store that into long-term memory. And then the second one, do you want to guess what should I just say? Is novelty. Which I think is really interesting, especially in terms of us, because we've been on so many things multiple times. So there are some studies that say people report experiencing more delight when they experience things that they've never seen or done before.
Yeah. I mean, prime example for me was riding Silver Star.
Right.
Experiencing
a new type of ride.
Seconds of total weightlessness. I had not done that before.
Mm-hmm.
So once I got on Silver Star, I was already scared because I got it was the tallest roller coaster I've ever been on at the time. Still might be. So I was nervous about going up the lift hill, looking down, and then I had a really loose restraint as well. But so when I went over the first airtime hill, I nearly died.
Mistakes were made.
Exactly. So it's like both, isn't it? It's novelty and then
that's like
high
peak.
Intensity.
That's like peak.
And that's why I remember it. And thinking about all the rides that I do remember, you're right. It's either one or the other or both for sure.
Because think about how many things have happened to us in our whole lives. How many minutes and hours have we been through that we cannot remember a single thing about? Like, everything you can remember is either emotional or something brand new. Like, it's gonna be either one, you know? Which is mad when you think about it, all the stuff you've forgotten in your life. But yeah, so then he raises this interesting point that, like, theme parks should basically focus on research and development, because the way they're gonna pull people in, or make their parks more memorable to people, is by investing in new things.
So, and which is funny, right, in a way, because people have hated for so long that Alton Towers always used to build world firsts.
Yeah, but it's actually a tactic that they're using.
And which is exactly what you're saying, that if you provide the first of an experience.
And how many times has that happened to someone specifically at Alton Towers? Say someone was like there for the opening of Oblivion and Nemesis, and all the rides that they've seen,
nothing like it at the time. It would have been the first. Oblivion was the first.
Yeah.
Nearly vertical roller coaster. So but people don't like. I mean, enthusiasts in general don't really like it because they're not always seen as having the best potential. You know
what? World firsts.
Yeah.
Because they're a trial.
Because they're a world's first. You never do something best first time.
Yeah.
Ever. You know? It's always a little
But in the
process.
moment, that doesn't matter because
you
can't experience it anywhere else.
It's only
like 20 years after when you realise that now they're even better.
Everyone forgets that it was so good at the time.
Yeah.
You know, like Oblivion, or so many dive coasters that are so much longer, but Oblivion was the only one, and then the only one in Europe for 11 years. Mm-hmm. So over a decade, it was the only roller coaster like that in Europe for a decade. Yeah. So,
but then, okay, something you brought up earlier, which I said we'd come back to this time, was that people are very nostalgic and they don't like things being taken out that have been there for so long, which is very interesting because I think even the general public are this way with, say, like Nemesis, because they remember riding it as a kid or whatever.
Sure.
But then, so the psychology tells us that people like things that are new, but then they also like things that are nostalgic. So in a way, you have to have both.
But people don't like change. I think nostalgia.
People don't like change, but they like new stuff. How does that work?
Oh yeah, when you're adding new stuff, not removing and then adding. Yeah. That's what I think it's on about.
Which I think is why Disney as a business model has worked, because they have kept a lot of nostalgic things. Do you know what I mean? Because you personally view that as bad. That they need to change, they need to rip it out. Yeah. I kind of agree. But then in a way, they're playing on the thing of it's a nostalgic place in general. Yeah. You know?
They are, exactly.
Yeah. But then there's places like Leesburg where they've just kept updating. Yeah. So it's a whole different business model of like, let's just keep adding new stuff and taking the old stuff out so that people come back because it's new.
Yeah. And I think that for most parks, the Disney business model wouldn't work.
Yeah. It's a very specific
I think
Disney thing.
they're almost an outlier.
But they've missed the boat because they weren't built in the 50s. They can't just make up nostalgia, can you?
Well,
if you haven't been around that long.
No, of course, but the parks that have been open that long, Tivoli has been open that long. Tivoli ripped out one of their roller coasters that they'd had for like 40 years a few years ago and built a better version of it. Mm-hmm. You know?
But Disney's a very special thing because...
I know, that's what I mean. It's an outlier.
Walt is a nostalgic figure, and I feel like everyone would think that it's kind of betraying Walt, who everyone loves so much.
Yeah.
B, like, I think the American culture plays into it as well. The fact that they just want to keep this kind of like typically American thing as it is.
Well, again,
do you know what I mean?
It plays into the people don't like change.
And also, America as a country doesn't have that much history, so in a way, Disney is essentially like as far back as they go.
When you think that's deep, that is.
It's true though, because when you think about like they come to England and look at like buildings that we have that have to us
there'll be buildings in London that are older than the United States.
Yeah, and so like
probably
they're keeping what they have as their history, you know, which makes sense because it is kind of like one of the main things they have. Anyway, interesting.
It is, and and just to say, I don't agree with the Disney business model at all. I can appreciate that you keep some rides, but the amount of rides that Disney keep when they are in such a good position, and that's what annoys me more so, is that they're in such a good position to innovate and provide new experiences, yet don't.
Yeah.
They do, obviously, sometimes, you know, Star Wars.
Yeah, and look how
Rise
successful that was.
Exactly, right? A new thing. I got rid of garbage before, so sure, whatever. I think most people are happy to get rid of that hot garbage. Yeah. But they've got such potential and so much could be done, but because of the nostalgia, it just won't happen. Mm-hmm. You know. And
also, the more years that you go without changing it, the more nostalgia there is, and you can never break it.
It's bad.
It is bad.
Just on the whole premise of innovation and development, it's just bad.
Yeah, but also I think I understand why people wouldn't want it to change, right? Because nostalgia's great, but I also think like you're not a child anymore. You can't keep going there and expecting it to be this amazing experience. Eventually, it's going to run out, and you're going to realize, well, actually, it's not that great anymore.
And another point, actually, is I find that a lot of people, and this was a key point of Alton Towers, a lot of people said that the magic of Alton Towers had disappeared.
When?
I don't know, over like between something like 2000 and 2010.
Okay.
Right. Sure. It might have done slightly.
Yeah.
You got older, mate. I'm not taking the piss.
Welcome
you got older,
to the world.
Right? So no wonder you're not a kid anymore.
Yeah.
You know how the world works. Of course it's not as magical because you're like 20 or something. So it's just a bit silly. And then if you were to replace those rides, people experience them as adults.
Exactly. It makes so much sense because...
It's like a reset, isn't it?
And also, like, why do you want to be out here ruining your experience as a child?
I know, yeah.
Stop going back on it because it's just going to ruin it. Like, I'd rather just keep it in the past, let it be a wonderful memory in your brain, and just, let's not be, continuing to ruin everything. And let's get a new thing. Anyway.
Only gets worse, doesn't it? Bubble Works only got worse.
Yeah.
And then they got taken out, people were really upset, but it was in such a tragic state.
Yeah. But everything I think about that I went on as a kid, that I went on as older.
I went as a kid.
You must have been on something. Like, okay, let's think about Nemesis or something.
Yeah.
Wasn't it like a million times better riding it as a kid?
Yeah, I mean...
Because a kid brain is like so different.
All roller coasters were better because I was scared of them.
Yeah.
Well, not scared, but there was a slight bit of fear.
But
I don't have that anymore.
Because as a child you're like different.
Well, I mean, it's just I've ridden so many roller coasters that fear has disappeared.
Okay, but let's take a different example.
I'm trying to think of an old ride that I actually care about.
No, I'm thinking not theme parks.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Like, what's a food that you ate as a kid that isn't as good now? Chalk ices. As a kid, I would be like, this is the best thing I've ever eaten. Eat them now, they're disgusting.
I used to love slushies as a kid. I still do really like them, but not...
Yeah, but not to that level.
No.
It's just like a different thing, isn't it? Anyway. So then he comes to the end of this article. He's talking about, in summary, it's about the intensity of your emotions, and everybody's different. But then he kind of comes to say that there's two goals essentially for theme parks to hit, is that first of all, people actually experience something, and secondly, that experience is made memorable. I can think of a lot of parks that hit the first one, that there's experiences there for you to have, but not a lot of them hit the memorable one, you know? Yeah. Or if they do, it's only a couple of things that are memorable.
Yeah.
But then if you think about Disney, Phantasialand, Leesburg, these are all my favourite parks. They all have a lot of memorable things.
Thinking of these key rides that I remember vividly going on.
Yeah. Emotions.
Yeah. None of them are at Phantasialand. None of them are at Disney either. Or at Disneyland Paris, at least. For me, personally, there's not one ride at Phantasialand that I actually vividly remember riding. I vividly remember riding Boulder and Helix.
Yes, me too. But we've been to Leesburg twice.
So? I vividly remember them before. I just remember
Phantasialand as a place, not necessarily the rides. So like Klugheim, I have a vivid memory of like the toilets in there. Sure. You know?
Yeah, there's definitely some things that you remember more.
Well, compared to like Flamingo Land, what are you remembering about Flamingo Land?
Nothing.
I remember the fact from my whole day at Flamingo Land, I remember Hero, because it was an intense emotion of pain and fear for my actual life. I thought I was going to die. Yeah. And secondly, I remember getting our uni results or something that said that we were going to go to a different uni. Or that was it. You were trying to transfer uni so we could go to the same one, and we didn't get it. And that's what I remember from Flamingo Land.
Yeah.
Nothing else. So it's very true that you have to hit the person's emotion, which is probably why places like Disney, where they play on your emotions so much, is very memorable.
And then going all the way back to my potential sayings. But it is, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Certain rides have a higher potential to offer experiences or generate experiences in the experience definition that you're happy with. That it's a memorable thing.
Do you mean the fact that they have higher elements? They have more intense elements?
No, just generally across the board. They've been designed in a way to enhance and higher the potential of people.
That's what I mean. The features of the ride
all add up.
Are better.
Yeah.
More intense, higher.
Yeah.
Faster.
Yeah. More
themed with a story.
So then you're saying what I was saying about objectivity. That some rides are objectively better.
I don't know.
No, I'm happy to say, some rides have a higher chance of providing a better experience.
I get what you mean about objectivity, but I think objectivity has a scale or something that it's measuring itself to, and depending on what you're measuring to is going to change which ride's objectively better. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
But generally, in terms of a theme park ride, the objectiveness is going to be how scary it is, or how thrilling it is, in other words. Interesting. I did ask for people's opinions about this topic, but I think I didn't phrase it in the right way.
Definitely wouldn't have phrased it in the
Nobody
right
got
way.
it. I didn't want to go too deep because I thought it'd start getting weird on Twitter. I kind of wrote like what makes an experience kind of thing. But again, it's kind of like what we were saying before about theming in a different episode.
Robert says, I think VR makes an experience a bad experience. Very cool. That was it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think we got too deep, but interesting stuff.
There you go. So think of the rides that you have ridden that you vividly remember.
Yeah.
This is it. A lot of the rides in my top 10.
Mm-hmm.
I not vividly remember, but I remember how it felt.
Emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember how it felt to ride Carnan. I remember how it felt to ride Helix and how it felt to ride Boulder, Silver Star, Woden.
Same.
But I don't remember how it felt to ride other rides. I don't remember how it felt to ride anything at Thorpe Park. I don't remember how it felt to ride. I do remember how it felt to ride Nemesis, but not emotionally. Yeah,
you remember the forces and how they feel, but you don't remember having a feeling.
The Smiler, I did, and now I ride it more, and that emotional connection is lessening. But I remember vividly being emotional for that, to that ride for a long amount of time. So it is interesting when you break it down. But again, this is what I mean about objectivity is I didn't really have an emotional connection to Taran or Wildfire, yet they both sit in my top 5.
Yeah.
Whereas the ones around, Woden, Silverstar, Boulder, I do have an emotional connection to.
I think that's where we're very different, because I've purely put my top 10 as the
so
ones that I had a reaction to.
Right, yeah. And I think most people would do what you did.
But Taran is still up there, actually.
And this is it. And then it comes back to objectively, Taran is an objectively good ride.
Yeah, and there's also some level of like, well, I should put Taran there because everyone loves it so much.
It's bad, man.
I'm going to have to rearrange my top 10 now.
And that's what I've always been saying, that I try to order my top 10 based on fun.
Yeah, and that's what I do.
I guess that fun level is not really fun. It's those two things you were saying. How
emotions.
Emotionally, and how unique it is.
Yeah. Psychology, man.
There you go.